So recently, all the top anglers in the country met up to fish the South African Open Fly Fishing Championships, hosted at Fuller and Kloof. It was a fantastic competition with the top 20 anglers in the country coming together to test their skills. Water levels were low, water was very clean, there were loads of fish around, but the fishing got complicated. After each session, it got more and more complicated. Once again, I think we saw a lot of the top anglers in the country come to the top of the field, which is great to see, as well as we saw some new faces start to make their mark within the South African fly fishing competitive scene. As the Double Ups show, we thought it would be interesting to do some interviews with some of those top anglers and hear what they had to say about their experience and some of their tips and tricks on the river. Let's have a listen.
Okay, so Barry here, guest interviewer for the Double Ups podcast, standing here with Matty Rich, current men's national selector, self-proclaimed fly tying champion.
Self-proclaimed?
Well, I mean, you did win the Protea Trials fly tying, so I'll give you that.
Thank you.
But we're just going to ask some questions about some river tactics here. We're at the last morning of the SAFA Open. So, Matty, can you give us a solid river tip that you're going to execute on this morning? Hopefully win your session.
Sheesh. A river tip. What's been very interesting is a lot of the time these fish are kind of turning off the nymph, and even though you've gone through water once or twice, you can go through it with a single dry. Tiny little terminator, size 20, size 18, and often those fish are still looking up, so we're getting a lot of fish on those very, very small dries, even later into the sessions, which is quite cool. Also, I don't know about today, I might, depending on the water, potentially rest some of my water, wait for the sun to get up a little bit more, get a little bit of sun on the water, hopefully some insect activity, and get those fish rising. Let's see what happens.
Anything specific you're doing for this last session?
Trying a few things that I spoke with Brett about yesterday. There's not a lot of flow, it's very low. We don't have a sort of very deep column to go through, but having a conversation with Brett yesterday, not only changing your drift and angles to get different depths, so not only kind of laying one flat and kind of getting a slow drift on the top and then trying to sink one, but actually change flies because they all move differently. And when you do find an area where you've found a little pod of fish, work it with different flies, different angles, different depths and different beads. So that's what I'm going to kind of play with today.
Okay.
See if it works.
Nice, mate. Good luck for your session.
Thanks very much.
So currently standing here with the leader of the SAFA Open, going through two sessions, Amy. Amy, can you give us a tip from your first two sessions and then what's going to change going into your last session for today?
Yeah, so I don't think anything's going to change, just slow, calm, steady.
Okay. Anything specific you're going to focus on the river though? Any specific technique, something you've been doing, maybe it's a little bit different to the other guys?
Yeah, probably a lot of maybe single dry and some dry dropper.
Okay, perfect. Thanks, Ed. Okay. Morning, Danny. How are you?
Good day to you, my boy.
Good, good. Nice to be interviewing you on your own podcast.
Yeah. Oh, this is for my podcast.
Yeah. As Danny is, always very informed. Danny, can you give us something that no one else did yesterday that you might have done? We know that your toolbox is full of little different tricks. Did you try anything that was really unique?
So I found, I had one, throughout the whole day, I had found one pocket with lots of small fish in.
Yep.
And I got quite a few on dry. The trick with the dry fly was to make sure that everything's hovering on the surface, including the hook. They wanted it high riding, and they seemed to eat it much better. But what I did when they went down a little bit is I would fish two dries, very sparsely dries, but I'd pick out all the CDC on it, and I'd swing them like two wets just under the surface, downstream swing, and they committed to it and ate it really well and really deep. And
nice.
Yeah, they're stuck in the net.
And the hovering, were you just using your desiccant to just get it to sit high, or were you just fishing a specific dry to get it to sit quite nicely? The shop is open, chum.
Lots of loon dust, half a bottle in half a session. It's important.
Yeah. Always be closing it, Danny.
Yeah, always be closing.
Thanks, Danny.
There'll be a discount next week on loon dust.
Perfect. Here on the last morning of the SAFA Open with Devin Azamango, proudly repping his company's brand here. In case anyone knows, this is where you get your chicken from in South Africa. Dev, I'm trying to think here. You're used to fishing the Wolf, which is quite a skinny river, a lot of overgrown stuff. Do you think you've been in a little bit of a unique advantage fishing under some of these sections where it's a little bit overgrown?
I wouldn't say unique advantage. It does help when you have small pockets that you need to access with sort of short casts and to get in really, really tight. So yeah, and I think one of the places where I've found fish on this when guys have been through water is right under undercut banks, which is very much something I learnt on the Wolf, so maybe a little bit, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you picked that fish out off the Eye Fish yesterday.
Yeah,
maybe
yeah.
describe
Yeah, but I knew
what
his
that looks
name,
like.
that guy. So yesterday I fished a session after Barry, and we had a beat that I'd fished before, and there's a piece of water in there with like a deep undercut in really a not very fishy spot. But on 2 previous occasions I fished that beat, and every single time for some reason there's a fish in that spot, and I thought to myself, I wonder if Barry's been here. And second cast proved me wrong. He was not there and that fish came out. So yeah, sometimes you just get those little ones that you know. Yeah.
Perfect. Here on the last morning of SAFA Open with Nick Lowe, the best looking man in South African fly fishing. Nick, we know you are known for your downstream buggering and all those things. Can you give us a tip on fishing a small river like this and trying to pick fish out of holes where it's been fished prior to you?
Okay, so yeah, I found that on my first run through my beats that I've often located fish on the dry fly and also missed quite a lot of fish on the dry. They come up, they splash on it, and they don't come up again. And what I would do then is I'll just turn around at the top and I'll just fish downstream, just swinging the flies through small pockets, big pockets, anything. Little black woolly bugger, just letting it play around in there heavy so that thing can just punch straight through the current, shallow water, deep water. If it's getting stuck on the bottom, you're in the right spot. So yeah, pulling it upstream, giving it a lot of aggression, sometimes just holding it there. Fish will come, check it out, go down.
Nice.
One time. Yeah.
And this little white bugger, you throw that around?
No, this is just an emergency bugger that's just sitting on here for if I do happen to have time. It's a 1.5 hour session, so you don't have a ton of time to get super creative if you going through once and then maybe another time. But yeah, on those longer sessions, or if I get desperate, got to try shock those fish to just come and hit anything. But yeah.
The competition ended with Amy taking the top spot, Dan in second, and Giannis taking third place, which is great to see, and great to see some new faces in the medals. I think there were some major takeaways from this competition. I think one of the things as anglers in South Africa and in the country that we struggle with is fishing pressured water. I think some of the European nations in particular get to fish some very pressured beats on their European rivers, which allows them to work out techniques and tips and tricks that ultimately enable them to catch fish when conditions are tough or when fish are tricky. What we saw in this competition in particular, because of the format and the rotation of the beats, is you would have an hour and a half to fish clean water, and then you would have an hour and a half to fish pressured water or water that had just been fished. And because we had a lot of new stocked fish as well as a combination of resident fish in the river, you had to change your tactics, you had to change your style of fishing. So we saw a lot of anglers changing from slightly deeper nymphing techniques or slightly larger flies and moving to simpler strategies around single dry fly, fishing the edges very closely, starting to target more your B and C type water to see if they could find fish that hadn't yet been pressured or maybe had been pressured slightly less than your deeper pockets, your better seams, your good riffles. We also saw anglers using slightly different techniques like 3 flies with soft hackles on point, double dry fly techniques using slightly submerged dry flies just under the film to get the fish to commit. In the early sessions, we saw the fish committing to the dry right on the surface, which I think is quite common early in a competition, but later sessions proved to be more difficult, and certainly the fish were more difficult to get to rise to the dry fly. I personally had a very tough final rotation where I managed to find rising fish in the last hour and a half, and consistently rising fish that were coming up in the bubble lines commonly, but could not manage to match a fly or technique that would allow me to get consistent eats. I caught, hooked, and lost 4 fish in that session, which would have made a major difference in my results. So there's definitely some room and area to work on there, but I think what bothered me more was the fact that I just couldn't match what these fish were eating, and I fished through 20 plus different dry fly combinations or just subsurface combinations, which absolutely blew my mind. I must say, it left me very frustrated after that session. What we did also see is when fish weren't rising, we reverted to using big dry flies to bring them up to the surface, so kind of aggravate the eat out of them or entice them into eating a bigger dry fly. Whereas when you found fish that were rising consistently, they were coming up to slightly smaller patterns, you needed to drop your dry fly size to allow those fish to come and eat what was floating on the surface, and ultimately matching the hatch. Water levels were very low and very clean. I found personally it made a big difference to sit on your knees or be very low when you were around fish. I found as soon as I lifted my body or I cast any sort of shadow on the water, I ran into some major issues around spooking fish. So that was key. And then because we were dealing predominantly with rainbow trout, the schools would shift and move a little bit as well. So being able to rotate your water in this competition was certainly critical to the anglers who ultimately came out on top. I personally saw a number of anglers running up and down the bank, rotating their best spots, which I think was a good tactic. I think we've got to develop some sort of methodology or plan to teach ourselves to fish more pressured water. And I think if you look at how our teams perform internationally, we are often strong in the early sessions, but in the later sessions of these large international competitions, we struggle to catch pressured fish, and that's something for us to take away and work on. But what a great competition, great to see some new faces on the podium, and I think something that will become part of the South African fishing calendar in the future. I'm going to leave you with a video of Barry doing what Barry does under the trees and losing a nice fish.
Oh my god, you are in so much cock. This is how you find a fish, baby. Oh no. Yeah, I can see him. What are you doing under there? Yeah, baby. Oh, it's a big fish. That's a really nice fish. Yeah. Oh, big fish. This is when you're so happy you're on 7X. Oh no, I'm sorry.